There's been a pretty big question as of late, and that is, what have they done when it comes to VeChain, at least as of late? Because people seemingly think that VeChain hasn't done anything. But actually, did you know that back in June, a pretty significant upgrade actually happened that not that many people talked about? And it's actually in regard to Stargate. And I'll talk about that in today's video. Even though this video isn't really about the price anyways, I'll talk about it still a little bit later. But I first want to clarify, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, just my opinion, perspective, and nothing I say is financial advice. So actually, back in June, they announced Stargate 2.8.0, at least in terms of VeChain builders. Now, with that being said, some people may be wondering, okay, what's so cool about Stargate 2.8.0? Like, what did that upgrade or update even do? Now, to keep things quite simple, basically what it did was that it brought new features and kind of fixes. That's kind of it. Not such a massive upgrade, keep in mind, but it's a meaningful one at that, especially if I consider just how important Stargate is to VeChain, right? I think it's a pretty important component, I should say, when it comes to VeChain as a project. So any small upgrade or update when it comes to that, I don't view it as a bad thing. But yeah, besides that point. Now, why does this even matter? Well, it's because if we take a look at Stargate, right? It's basically the platform, or a platform, I should say, where individuals do sometimes lock up their VET, which is VeChain's primary native token. Now, if we take a look at that right there, people seemingly think that VeChain kind of gave up when it comes to Stargate. Also, people seem to think it's a little bit useless, but clearly that's not the case. And if we take a look at some even deeper statistics, we'll see that, for instance, right? When it comes to Stargate so far, we'll see that currently around 14.8 billion VET is being locked up when it comes to Stargate. Now, if we take a look at that right there, people seemingly think, whoa, that's such a massive amount. Now, it is kind of massive, but it's not actually in terms of the dollar amount. I just want to make that clear. That's in terms of like actual VET, in terms of the token. But beyond that, right, it's actually not too bad, again, nonetheless, because around 14.8 billion VET accounts for approximately 17% of the maximum supply when it comes to VET. So if we take a look at that right there, do you think that individuals would want to lock something up, especially when it comes to space, if they don't think about it for the long term? Of course, they probably wouldn't, right? Or not, why would they lock it up? That's just kind of my mindset sometimes. But the way I take a look at it is maybe also a little bit deeper. Because, okay, sure, it's not the best ratio out there. Again, around 17% of the maximum supply that's currently being locked up. Again, not the best, not even 1/5 of it, but still not too bad given the current conditions. Okay, because if we take a look at it, we're in 2026 as of right now. Market sentiment isn't doing the best. Some projects out there are closing up shop, some exchanges out there are closing up shop. It's not really so good. But when it comes to VeChain, nonetheless, seeing those statistics when it comes to Stargate, and then also on top of that, seeing a recent upgrade, right? The version 2.8.0, they got to kind of change the naming, in my opinion. Why not make it a little bit more simple? But you know what? Tomato, tomato, it is what it is. But nonetheless, when I'm seeing that right there, that's what I've seen them do lately. And keep in mind, this is on top of, right? Or should I say in addition to, not really on top of, but besides that, this is in addition to taking a look at VeChain recently announcing vWorld AI and how that's even powered by Agent Suite. So when it comes to VeChain, we're talking about a project here that originally, at least to me, when I first believed in it, was very focused on supply chain management. But then we fast forward to right now, VeChain is suddenly so focused when it comes to AI. You know, that's pretty impressive. Now, people seem to think, okay, does that mean it's a sign of defeat when it comes to VeChain? Because they seem to think that some projects out there to kind of revitalize the project, right? They see a lot of these projects start being focused when it comes to AI. But when it comes to VeChain, I think it's actually quite the opposite in a sense where they're not being focused on AI suddenly to kind of revive the project. If they wanted to do that, they could have easily done that last year in terms of trying to create attention and stuff like that, in terms of really, pushing this narrative when it comes to AI. But they're kind of doing it right now, right? It seems like more so than last year, which showcases to me that it's not really driven off of like trends or hype. If anything, they're taking this moment to actually be really focused on it. And it showcases that even in 2026, they could care less about the market conditions, it seems like, in a good way, though, because they're really focused when it comes to AI. So again, it's not really kind of hype driven, in my opinion. If anything, I think they're taking this approach to maybe prepare for that wave later, because when it comes to this space, the AI narrative hasn't really kicked in yet in a massive way. It has when it comes to stocks, though, as of late, even though there's been like a slight decrease in some cases, but I'm saying still, when it comes to stocks as of late, we've seen the narrative there. So if it were to enter into this space, VeChain, they're trying to better prepare for that. And here's the thing, VeChain, as of right now, in terms of market cap, or should I say VET, it's ranked 82nd in the world when it comes to this space. So this is not a project that's desperate in a sense where they need to be focused on AI to kind of revitalize it. That's not really the case. Had they been ranked like 10,000th or whatever, maybe I get it why they would try to be focused on AI to kind of revitalize it. Then that argument starts making a lot more sense. But again, as of right now, that argument where VeChain is being focused on AI to kind of revitalize the project currently, it doesn't make much sense to me just because this is still a top 100 project. I get it, it's down. But despite being down, it's still top 100, which showcases to me that this whole market is down overall because VeChain being down and still being in the top 100 showcases that a bunch of other projects are also down. It's not only this. If this was the only one that's down and the whole market overall is having this amazing rally, then VeChain would of course be ranked way lower, right? It wouldn't be top 100 if it's the only one going down. You know what I mean? That's just the way you take a look at it. But yeah, besides that as well, we take a look at VeChain, right? A lot of people, when, Stargate was announced and also the Hayabusa upgrade, a lot of people kind of downplayed that, but as of right now, we're beginning to see kind of the effects of it. Evidently, as seen, right, around 17% of the maximum supply is currently being locked up when it comes to, or should I say through Stargate. So that's pretty impressive, especially again in 2026. I mean, no one really expected that. I mean, okay, when VeChain first announced Stargate, I personally knew a couple people that said there's going to be no way there would even be over 5% that is being locked up, or like 10%, especially as they started to see, the market conditions in 2026. But apparently, again, we're more than halfway through 2026, and still we're seeing those statistics, again, around 17% of the maximum supply that is currently being locked up through Stargate. Or should I say on Stargate, whatever the case may be. Tomato, tomato. But yeah, when I take a look at this right here, I think it showcases that the conviction is still there. Maybe the market sentiment isn't the best, but the conviction is still there. And when people usually believe in a project, when they have conviction, it usually is more so driven through fundamentals and use cases, not driven through hype or attention, because hype can fade. Attention can fade, like especially if the market isn't doing the best. That can all go away. But when it comes to actually believing in the core fundamentals, that is what oftentimes sticks around given a time when the market isn't doing the best. So that's what I've noticed as of late. So I think that's quite legendary at a time like right now. Now, if I just want to discuss the price a little bit, again, it hasn't really changed much ever since my last video. Market cap's still around 400 million. So yeah, I mean, it hasn't really done much. Still around 13 times away than December of 2024 in terms of market cap. Yeah, it's down. Nothing really much happened. But in terms of what they've done as of late, they've done quite massive things, in my opinion. And also, let's take this into consideration. When it comes to VeChain, I don't know why some people seem to think that it kind of forgot about its focus when it comes to supply chain management. People seem to think that VeChain kind of abandoned that idea, but I don't agree with that. I mean, VeChain is still pretty much, in my opinion, very focused when it comes to supply chain management. It's just trying to add another wrinkle, or another layer, I should say, to the project by being focused when it comes to AI. Let me just give this example, right? People seem to think that, VeChain is so focused when it comes to supply chain management, they don't need to be focused on AI, but I disagree with that. Again, the example I'm going to use is this G-Shock right here. Take a look at this, right? This is, by the way, the G-Shock Frogman. Casio, they make G-Shocks. Now, here's the thing. Casio, we all know they make like calculators, musical instruments, a lot of electronics and stuff. And what I mean by musical instruments is, of course, like electronic musical instruments like keyboards and pianos and stuff. So again, Casio, despite making all that, they also make watches. Nothing wrong with diversifying, in my opinion, especially when it comes to projects within this space. Because we don't know if one narrative could work or not. Now, VeChain is pretty well known for supply chain management, but again, if they're focused on supply chain management and also AI, it gives it another pathway. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like Casio. They make calculators, they make musical instruments, electronic musical instruments, I should say, and then also they make watches. So again, what's wrong with that? I mean, let's take a look at Berkshire Hathaway. What do they own, right? They own Brooks, like, you know, the shoes. They also own Apple stocks. They also own part of Coca-Cola in terms of some of the stock there. So we got to think about that. When it comes to diversifying, I don't see what's wrong. Because again, if we take a look at Berkshire Hathaway, it seems kind of odd, right? At first glance, like why would they own Brooks, which is like, you know, a shoe company, and then also care about, let's say in the case of Coca-Cola, like it's so different, right? Or let's say they also believe in Apple. But again, they're diversifying. It's no different than in the case of VeChain. Supply chain management, there's also AI. So yeah, I'll be sure to make more updates though when it comes to VeChain moving forward. So I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very fantastic day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.